Hello and welcome to another episode of Crossing the Line, Tales from the Entertainment Industry. I'm Oliver Rednell.
And I'm Charlie Collicutt.
Today we speak to Olissa Rogers, casting associate whose credits include Ted Lasso, Criminal UK and The Outlaws.
In this episode, we discuss what it is to work in the casting industry, how many actors go up for a specific role, and what does a German self-tape look like. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, share and review on whatever platform you're listening on.
Ready to level up as an actor? Framework offers drop-in workshops for actors of all levels with a focus on character, connection and text analysis using exercises and techniques created by the most prolific names in acting training. Be open-minded, be brave, be encouraging and maximize your experience. Visit framework-acting.com and use the code CTL20 for 20% off your first booking. And now, on with the show. You're on the other end of the camera today, Olissa. How does it feel? How does it feel? I suppose you started off as an actress, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I started off with musical theatre and drama. So
Did you train?
yeah,
Yeah, musical theatre. You have to think of all that, the skill.
I was about to
involved
say,
in
there's
that.
quite a lot of strings to the bow there, isn't
It's
there?
none of this turning up and just saying the words business.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a lot of.
Not like us actors.
No, that's
Indeed.
it. That's it. Do you miss doing musical theatre?
no.
Oh, okay.
Very, very,
We'll move
very
on swiftly
direct
from that
answer
then.
there. Yeah, yeah. Do you find that your experience as a performer in the past has helped you with your career in casting?
Yes, definitely a lot because both musical theatre and drama school taught me how I can direct, not direct actors, but give them feedback when it comes to self-taping with notes and stuff, because I've learned a lot of technique and tools to help me, so I was able to pass that on. So it did help in audition situations. It would help a lot.
And was it an accident that you became a casting director, or was it something you set out to do?
It was an accident.
Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I graduated from school when in Germany, because that was where I was born and raised, and I basically missed all the deadlines to apply for the schools.
Right.
So I was working in a clothes store until my parents said, "Let's do something with your life until you can get to the next round of auditioning and getting into school." So I applied for a TV internship, becoming a director, and they didn't have a slot left for a director, but they said, "We'll put you into casting." And I had no idea what that was, but I was like, okay, I'll just try it out. And they loved my work, so I kept working there, interning there until I got into the musical school. So I went, did my studies, and then they called me and asked me, "What are you up to?" And I was like, "I just finished my studies, and do you want to come back to Germany, to Munich?" Because I was in Denmark. I've studied in various places, but yeah, so I moved back, and then I worked my way up there, and then I moved to London in 2016 and continued working in casting.
What are the differences between actors where you've worked, if there are any? So would you say there's a different work ethics, different styles, how they approach things? Have you seen a difference if there are any at all?
Only in self-tapes, and just from seeing German people self-taping versus UK versus America.
Okay.
So there are very slight differences where Germans, they put the whole setup, the whole scenery. They get their daughter to be off book to read the other parts. So it's very much almost a movie.
Oh, wow.
A lot of German self-tapes, which is quite interesting and amusing, and they really go full on.
Do you prefer that? Do you prefer that?
I was about to say, you must think British people are a bit lazy at that point.
No, I like them both. I don't mind as long as I can see the acting. But it's nice to see a little film, what they do. They put a lot of effort into it.
And how is it now with self-taping being the predominant way of casting? How have you found that personally?
It's good because you can see more people, so you're not limited to a specific amount of people that you can only get into the room because you have that time. But it is also, it's more people, so it's more work, so it's more admin, so it's more things to do. But I'm not complaining. It's a good thing because you see more faces, but it is learning how to maximize or use their time efficiently. You know what I mean?
So,
Sure.
Olissa, your CV for casting, anyway, is more kind of comedy-based, I would say. You know, you've worked on Ted Lasso, you worked on The Outlaws. Would you say that comedy is your forte? Do you enjoy working in that kind of arena?
I enjoy both. I just work on the projects that my casting director bosses take on. So whatever they do, I did do a few, like I did a little bit of drama for Amy. Well, I did Criminal UK and Fiona's, a few more drama based ones. I really love comedy, but I also don't mind doing a good drama. So yeah, I don't make a difference. I can't be choosy on what I want to do. We audition for work as well, same like actors. We talk to producers and tell them how we work, and then it's like, do they want us or do they not?
How do they decide then? What would you say to a producer or a director and say, this is what we have to offer? That would differ from somebody else.
I've never thought about that way, what we have to offer, but I actually came off a meeting earlier on today for a project, and the producer asked me, like, how would you approach casting this role? So I just told him what I would do, and then just see what they say, if they like me, if they like a better candidate, and then I think they look at the CV. But it's basically also the human interaction, obviously, but also how you would go around casting a part. Or sometimes they would even ask you for names. If it's like a bigger project that you have a list ready, where you say, this is the parts that I see these actors in. And sometimes the directors and the casting directors' taste clashes completely because they see it from they see somebody else in that part. So sometimes if the taste doesn't work together, then they'll probably go with somebody else who shares similar tastes.
What's the biggest misconception that actors have of casting directors, or what you do specifically?
I think they underestimate the workload that is behind what we do, because we don't only like get people to. A lot of people think, oh, we're just sat behind a desk and say yes and no. You know, an audition room, we sat behind the table and then yes, no. Where that's just like a very small amount of our workload. Whereas we also have to negotiate the fees, the contracts with the agents. So we do all of the math, the budget, the calculations, all of the whole, that kind of side. I don't enjoy doing deals. I can't be bothered talking about who gets their name in the beginning of the film. Is it a shared card? Is it whenever they appear on the screen? It's like so little things that you have to sometimes go back and forth on.
Really? I heard many years ago when that started to happen, it was the film The Towering Inferno with Paul Newman and Steve McQueen, and they both wanted star billing. So what happened was, they said, I can't remember which way around it was, but Paul Newman can have his name higher. No, sorry, Paul Newman will be the first one, but it'll be lower. But Steve McQueen will have his name second, but it will be higher. That's how they worked it out and said that's the equal way of doing it. So it can get down to the sort of nitty gritty of things
or who gets the and or the with. So somebody gets and with blah 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 and da.
Oh,
so
really?
You have that as well.
Well, what's the significance of that? Which is worth more, and with?
There's still leeway. So if somebody wants the and, we can go back to the other one and say, how about if he gets a with?
Okay, so this could be Ollie Rednall with Charlie Collicutt, or Charlie Collicutt and Oliver Rednall.
Yeah.
You talked about, you don't particularly enjoy that side of discussing who's getting billing, who's having that. What is your, what do you enjoy most about casting? What is your forte? And you said earlier, someone said, how would you cast this? What is your style?
Yeah, so I'll go at it with several approaches. So creating a list of people that I've seen before for projects that I know that I've seen in theater or that I've come across, I would create that list, and then also go and put out a spotlight breakdown and see what else there is, and maybe even do my own spotlight search, because sometimes you can just get inundated with a lot of suggestions. So I would just go through spotlight in my own time and look through people, and that's how I would go about casting for a part.
So you'll get this question a lot, and I think most actors know the art. They always ask in workshops or when you meet them, how do you get in the room? Now, I think they know it's about a combination of having the right representation and a little bit of luck and things like that. But I have a friend, for example, she's been out of drama school about 6 years now. she's been with an agent, a sort of semi-decent agent, for about a year, and she hasn't been seen a lot. What would your advice to someone in that position go about getting in the room, as it were, or being cast? Or what would she do now? Because she needs to build up her credits, and she hasn't got any TV credits as such. It's been sort of theatre and sort of short films and commercials. This is the thing where I think a lot of people get stuck in, and they go to workshops, and then it becomes a bit of a cycle. What would you do if you were in that position, knowing the knowledge that you have from a casting point of view?
Yeah, there is not really a golden nugget for that. I think it's just basically being proactive. And what I say to people is the casting world loves to go and see a good show, see a good play. So that's how I also found a lot of people that I called in for projects, because I saw them in shows, and it wasn't necessarily the big West End show. It could have been a little pub, and theater pub or something like that. So I think for her to stay on that and invite people to see her in those shows. Maybe considering changing agents. I'm not saying she should, but if she's not happy and it doesn't clash or doesn't work, maybe consider looking for somebody else. But obviously I don't want her to do it if
of course. Yeah. Well, I don't mention her name, so it's generic. It's generic for anyone sort of listening. What are your thoughts on that situation? Because when you're with an agent, and I think this is something, and I've mentioned this before, we had Amy Jackson on the show and I mentioned it to her, but when you're with an agent and you're not getting seen, and we've all been there, I think it's a culture that needs to change, because you're entrusting your time. Your time is limited, and if you think someone's in an office working for you, and I know they've got a lot of clients and they can be working all the time, but this is a culture thing that I think needs to change. And I know people who've been told, oh, it's quiet recently, but then someone of exactly their type is with a different agent, and it's like, well, I've been seen 4 times this week for this, and this isn't just a 1 week thing, this is consistent. And we go on about looking after one another in this industry and how difficult it is, and it is. I know no one made us do it, but it still doesn't mean we aren't having
respected. And
that's right, and having a hard time, but
the time that we've entrusted to those people as well.
But what would you say if someone's in that situation? Because I know a lot of actors that are, and I think it's something that needs to be called out, to be honest. But people are scared of doing it because their agent are seen as the one in authority, because everyone wants to have an agent.
Ask for permission to have your submission list. And then you also know if your agent is putting you forward, not only if, but for the right things. Because I come across a lot of agents just putting people submitting without thinking. So I get 30 suggestions from one agent just to make sure that maybe one of them can get that kind of, a route, like statistically. So agents that they just take themselves a minute to look at the brief, the character breakdown, and then specifically choose those clients that are right, 2 or 3, rather than throwing 40 at me. All are not right. So then I just skip it, and it's not the actor's fault, but it just puts me off, because I'm like, I'm putting work in, but you're just throwing out 40 people. None of them are right. So, but it's wasting my time, and maybe one of them would be right, but they missed their chance because the agent's just not properly working for them. So I think if you get a submission list, look at the parts you've been submitted for and think, is this something that's realistic, or that is something for me, or if you're just doing that so I can see that they're working for me. You know what I mean?
Sure. Aside from the submission list, though, even though what you say is absolutely right, it gives a great indication of the kind of things you'll be put forward for, but is it not the relationship with the casting director and who's maybe pushing on the phone or emailing separately? Because you must get 1,000, 5,000 submissions, and subbing someone is just clicking a button, right? It's not actually nurturing a relationship or pushing someone specifically, if you understand what I mean.
I don't think people need to push.
Okay.
Because it's just like we know it, we get it. So a lot of casting directors are put off by pushing.
Well, like you were saying, you're busy. You've only got so many hours in the day, and you're pushing deals and making deals and doing the widths and the
so I was about
ands.
to say that the actual small bit of seeing who's been put forward is just a percentage of all the other jobs you've got to do for that one project.
Tiny percentage.
Is there anything that you would like actors to know and agents to know, that a problem that you always face, or like, oh, I wish they wouldn't do this or wouldn't do that?
I mean, I had a little tweet rant last because people don't label their NDAs. And it's a lot of NDA agreement copy, brackets 1. And if you get, I don't know how many NDAs that you need to get signed off, 200, 300, and you get a lot of those copies and agreements, PDF, like save as bracket 1, and it's just like, just put your name there. It takes the actor 30 seconds, where if I have to do 200 for 30 seconds, it's a lot of my time that's been put in there that I could have used doing more efficiently. So I say to people, just read the email with the self-type instructions, read it 3 times, because every office wants different requirements. So just take yourself that minute beat to sit down and just read it and not just skim over it, because self-tapes are different from the offices. Whereas I think actors now think, oh, it's the same process, the same thing we do over and over again. I'm like, no. Some people want scenes separately. Some want them merged. Some don't want any idents. Some want idents. Just read it. And I put it in red, in bold, in big letters.
It's nice to do that. I wouldn't. I just send them back and say we're not going to sub this.
Yeah.
So anyone out there wanting to employ me as a casting director, don't.
I was about to say, just be aggressively, nope, not having it. No.
I was like, when I do my own projects, which I am doing, I was like, I'm not going to accept any of these things. And now I am, because I need it. But people should just use that little tiny effort. And the minute I tweeted that with label your NDAs and had that little rant, my colleague of mine, he said, Olissa, when I saw your tweet, I was actually labeling an NDA from somebody who couldn't be bothered to write their name. So I felt with you. I was so angry that people don't do it.
Oh my goodness. And Olissa, if there's anybody out there who is looking to maybe become a casting director, get into the business themselves, how would you recommend that they, start that journey?
Well, the NFTS school, National Film and Television School, has this casting course now that
it started last year, I believe. I think it was
last year.
Yeah, Amy spoke about
it. And those people that collaborated to do these casting courses for people to actually study. So I think that's always a good way to start. Or even email in randomly. Like, you can always look at the Casting Directors Guild and look at vacancies, because not everybody needs to have experience in casting. So some would take somebody on without casting experience. So I think looking at the Casting Directors Guild website, as well as looking into the National Film and Television School courses, is probably a good start.
Has there been a particular project which has been your favorite?
I think Ted Lasso. I did enjoy. There are a lot of projects at Fiona's that I also really enjoyed. School for Good and Evil, and now we finished something for Disney, which Jerry Bruckheimer produced, which is also a very lovely story. It was really, really also a good comedy drama based on a true story. I think Ted Lasso, and then a lot of Fiona's projects.
How did Ted Lasso work? Was Jason Sudeikis already connected to that, and then you had to cast around that? Or was it, no, blank slate, here's the story, you go find them?
It was Jason Sudeikis who did a little pitch 8 years before even creating, he already had that character created. There were little pitch videos, I think, in the States where he just already pretended to have that character of Ted Lasso, who he already invented. So little snippets, little video clips were already online years ago, before he even thought about making it a series. So then he created the series based on that character he developed back then. So he was already attached, along with Brendan Hunt. So those two were attached already, cast, and then we worked around the rest of the people.
Very good. And was that the same for something like The Outlaws, for instance? There's quite a couple of big names in that, Christopher Walken being one of them.
The Outlaws, I think pretty much, nope, that was all fresh. So all new characters. There was nobody already attached to it. I mean, I jumped on, I think, a month into casting, because when I started at Amy's, they already had started that casting process. But the other people had to be found, as Christopher Walken as well.
Sure.
He was one of the later ones, actually.
And when you get tapes from actors, do you watch them all? For one role, how many tapes would you get? Because it must be so monotonous by watching so many again and again, especially if they've sent a couple of takes.
I watch them all, but I always say just send me one, because if I request 200, I need to see 400 if everybody sends two. And especially if it's multiple scenes. And then they decide to do 2 takes of everything. I was like, oh no, please don't.
But when you say 200, would that be for one role?
Yeah.
Sometimes yes.
Wow.
So
sometimes yes. Sometimes
what
no.
kind of role?
It can vary. Sometimes if you find a lead role or you want to find a new exciting, talented actor, you can see a lot of people.
Let's say a day player role. You wouldn't see 200 for that, would you?
No.
Thank God. I was literally going to leave this industry right now.
I was going to say, oh, my percentage is so much lower than I thought it was already.
20, 30 for a day player.
Okay.
And has that increased since auditions have gone?
For Ted Lasso, for Danny, I think I saw a total of 300 people and
wow,
self-tape rooms and everywhere.
If you were to have 200 people that you see for something, you then whittle that down to people you see in the room. Do you have a baseline number for that kind of thing?
5.
Oh, so it is a steep cutoff
yeah,
from those two. And with that kind of thing, you'd put them through, you as the casting director would direct them to see certain things, different things. I assume, would they be things that you'd come up with, or that the production team would ask you to see? The director?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because he would then do the callbacks, and we would just be sat next to him, and he would then do the directing, and we just sit there and say, so this is the next person coming in.
I once heard at a workshop, a casting director, I won't say it was, said if they want someone in a role, what they've done is they've picked the worst tape, and they're the person they want to be cast tape, and don't put the good tapes in. So therefore, it looks like they're the best person for the role. Have you heard of this happening?
So like the contrast between them.
Because I've spoken to other casting directors, and they're like, absolutely not. But someone said this in a workshop quite openly, and this was a little while ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, but I was quite surprised. I was talking about it to someone recently, and I thought I would ask if that's something you've ever come across or know of.
I have not come across it, and I don't know of that, but that's not what we do.
And where would you like to go now with casting? Do you have a certain ambition or a sort of type of project that you'd like to work on?
Not yet. I mean, I have ambitions, yeah, but I think I'm happy over anything that I can get my hands on. But I do love stories that are true, that are based on true stories. I like projects that are based on true stories, to tell that are meaningful, but also I like sometimes that are just a comedy, just fun. So yeah, just if the script grabs my attention, no matter what genre it would be, I'm very intrigued. But the script has to be good.
Sure.
But I think true stories are something that I'm passionate about.
And when you're casting someone who's a real person, how do you have artistic sort of scope to change? Because obviously it's not going to be identical to the person that was. Do you have a certain area of leeway?
Yes, there's wiggle room for that. And
have you ever found a specific example of where you found that difficult, where it's like, it's really hard to find an actor for this role?
It's currently actually because they have a disability. So being true to that, and then finding somebody that has that disability is a bit tricky. I am doing my research because I do want to make it authentic. But it might be that they'll have to trick it because the person just isn't there that I'm looking.
How long would you give for something like that before you go, look, we need to widen?
You must have a deadline.
Yeah,
as well.
I was about to say that there's got to be a point where you're just beating your head against a wall.
I would continue going on, I think, but starting on the other options.
Sure.
So do it simultaneously, and then just when the resources are gone, when there's no more suggestions coming through and you've done everything, then that's just done. But I wouldn't give up, I would still try and see if something's happening. If nothing's happening anymore, then that's just gone, but I'll have that other backup, or that alternative, not backup, but alternative.
You can say you've done your due diligence at that point.
Yeah.
When you watch a show, for example, like Ted Lasso, when it's back on, when it's released, do do all the memories of the self-tapes and the auditions come flooding back when you see it? And is it odd to see it all put together as one sort of like coherent piece?
It is. And sorry, when I did Ted Lasso, it was all in the room. So it was all that was all in the room. I don't think we did well, apart from Danny Rojas, because they wanted him to be, or Jamie Tart originally was Spanish, Argentinian. So we had a lot of self-tapes from Spain, from Brazil, from Mexico, where we got Cristo in the end. So I think, but when it comes to on the screen, it was quite exciting. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool.
Do you find yourself ever watching a performance and being like, wow, how far they've come, or that's completely different to what we did in the room, or anything like that?
That's an interesting point. I've never thought about that so much. I'm just like, I just enjoy it. I don't really think about work then. I'm just like, oh.
And I suppose it's been some time, hasn't it?
Right.
So you've given it a bit of space between when you worked on it until when it arrives on the telly.
But they're mostly true to what they did in the casting.
Sure.
Like there's not that much of a difference. If at all they grow, but yeah.
Fantastic.
Olissa, the final question we always ask our guests is there a film you're ashamed you haven't seen?
The Godfather.
Ooh. Okay. You're not the first one who said The Godfather either. Who was the other?
Really?
I don't know. But that's I think I don't know who it was, but we'll find them.
We'll go back. We'll label it.
Oh, that's a killer.
Okay, Godfather.
And it says how many 50th anniversary it's just had, I think.
Was that last year?
It was this year.
It was this year?
Yeah, they had
Okay.
a big celebration of it. I think they sort of re-released and remastered everything.
Just to clarify, is that all of them, or is that just one, or two, three?
You wouldn't watch
All
2
of
and
them.
3.
Yeah, I was about to say.
You wouldn't watch 2 and 3. That would be even worse.
Yeah. So how did we get here?
Yeah. That's a good one, though. That's a
Fantastic.
good one.
Okay, brilliant. Godfather. There we go. Well,
And Schindler's List.
Really? We've had that before as well.
That's a big one. Though.
Yeah.
That's a really. I say
This is homework,
Yeah,
Olissa.
I was about to say next time.
Oh, and the last one, Pulp Fiction. So those three.
This is really bad now. Just stop the camera.
I was about to say you're in casting. You're showing yourself up at this point. No.
Killer. That's
okay.
Your homework for this weekend, bank holiday weekend.
That's
Here
a
it is.
triumvirate right there. Pulp Fiction, Schindler's List, Godfather.
This has been a roller coaster.
Yes, I'm about to say
This
my
has been
heart
a roller
is beating
coaster.
right now. Very good. Well, Olissa, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing that last piece of information. You can see Ollie right here is...
I'm leaving.
They're going to have to give him a shot of adrenaline, which you'll understand
don't even make it
when you watch Pulp Fiction. Very good. Grand. Olissa, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much for listening.